Taylor Swift, The Complete Story of a Global Phenomenon, Chapter 1, The Beginning, 1989 to 2003. Taylor Allison Swift was born on December 13, 1989, in Reading, Pennsylvania, to Scott Kingsley Swift and Andrea Gardner Swift. Named after the legendary singer-songwriter James Taylor, her destiny seemed written in the stars from the very beginning. Growing up on a Christmas tree farm in nearby Wyomissing, Taylor's childhood was marked by creativity, ambition, and an early recognition of her exceptional talent. Her father, Scott, worked as a financial advisor, while her mother, Andrea, had previously worked in mutual fund marketing. Taylor grew up alongside her younger brother, Austin, in a supportive family environment that would prove crucial to her eventual success. The Swift family's comfortable middle-class background provided Taylor with opportunities that she would seize with remarkable determination. From an early age, Taylor showed an affinity for performance and storytelling. She began performing in local theater productions and participated in Berks Youth Theater Academy productions. At just 9 years old, she became interested in musical theater and traveled regularly to New York City for vocal and acting lessons. However, her interests soon shifted toward country music after listening to Shania Twain's album. The genre's emphasis on storytelling resonated deeply with young Taylor, who had already begun writing her own poetry and songs. At age 11, Taylor made her first trip to Nashville, Tennessee, the heart of country music. Armed with a demo tape of karaoke covers, she walked down Music Row, knocking on record label doors and handing out her material. Despite her determination, she faced rejection. Labels told her she needed to differentiate herself from everyone else, trying to make it in Nashville. This early setback would fuel her drive to become not just another country singer, but something entirely unique. The rejection didn't deter Taylor. Instead, it motivated her to focus on songwriting, recognizing that original material would be her key to standing out. She began learning guitar at 12 years old, and computer repairman Ronnie Creamer taught her to play 3 chords on the guitar. With just those 3 chords, Taylor wrote her first song, Lucky You. This moment marked the beginning of her journey as a songwriter, a skill that would become her defining characteristic and greatest strength throughout her career. Chapter 2, The Nashville Dream, 2003 to 2006. Recognizing their daughter's extraordinary talent and unwavering determination, the Swift family made a life-changing decision. In 2003, when Taylor was 14, they relocated to Hendersonville, Tennessee, a suburb of Nashville. This move demonstrated the family's commitment to Taylor's dreams, with her father transferring to the Nashville office of Merrill Lynch. The sacrifice was significant, but the Swifts believed in their daughter's potential. In Nashville, Taylor attended Hendersonville High School, where she balanced her education with her musical ambitions. She began performing at local venues, festivals, and events, including the Bluebird Cafe, a legendary Nashville songwriting venue. Her performances caught the attention of music industry professionals, who recognized something special in the young teenager with the curly blonde hair and powerful voice. Taylor's songwriting continued to mature rapidly. She drew inspiration from her personal experiences, crushes, heartbreaks, friendships, and the challenges of adolescence. This authenticity would become her signature, creating a deep connection with listeners who felt she was writing us about their own lives. Unlike many young performers who relied solely on material written by professional songwriters, Taylor insisted on writing or co-writing all her songs, maintaining creative control from the very beginning. Her dedication to her craft was remarkable. While other teenagers were focused on typical high school activities, Taylor spent her time writing songs, practicing guitar, and networking in the music industry. She performed anywhere that would have her, from festivals to songwriting competitions to coffee houses. Her work ethic, even at such a young age, was extraordinary and would become a defining characteristic of her career. In 2004, at just 14 years old, Taylor became the youngest artist ever signed by the Sony ATV Music Publishing House. This was a significant milestone, validating her talent as a songwriter and providing her with resources and connections within the industry. She began writing songs with experienced Nashville songwriters, learning the craft while maintaining her unique voice and perspective. During this period, Taylor caught the attention of Scott Borchetta, a music executive who was preparing to launch his own independent record label, Big Machine Records. Borchetta saw Taylor perform at the Bluebird Cafe and was immediately impressed. In 2005, she became one of the first artists signed to Big Machine Records. joining the label's roster as it was still being formed. This partnership would prove transformative for both Taylor and the label. Chapter 3, Debut and Breakthrough, 2006 to 2008. Taylor Swift's self-titled debut album was released on October 24, 2006, when she was just 16 years old. The album was a commercial and critical success, introducing the world to a teenage songwriter with remarkable maturity and relatability. She wrote or co-wrote every song on the album, addressing themes of young love, heartbreak, and growing up with honesty and detail that resonated with listeners. The lead single, Tim McGraw, released in June 2006, was a nostalgic ballad about a summer romance remembered through the lens of the country superstar's music. The song reached the top 10 on the Billboard Hot Country Songs chart and introduced Taylor's signature style, narrative songwriting with specific, vivid details that made listeners feel they were experiencing the story themselves. The success of Tim McGraw established Taylor as a promising new voice in country music. Subsequent singles from the debut album continued to build her reputation. Teardrops on My Guitar became a crossover hit, reaching audiences beyond country music and demonstrating Taylor's potential for mainstream appeal. The song, about unrequited love for a classmate named Drew, showcased her ability to transform everyday teenage experiences into universally relatable music. Other singles like Our Song and Picture to Burn further established her presence on country radio and beyond. The debut album ultimately spent 275 weeks on the Billboard 200 chart. A remarkable achievement for any artist, let alone a teenage newcomer. It was certified multi-platinum and established Taylor as a commercial force in country music. More importantly, it demonstrated that she was not a manufactured pop product, but a genuine artist with real songwriting talent and an authentic connection to her audience. Taylor supported the album with extensive touring, opening for major country acts like Rascal Flatts, George Strait, Brad Paisley, Tim McGraw, and Faith Hill. These tours exposed her to large audiences and helped her develop as a performer. She was known for her energetic shows, her connection with fans, and her dedication to making each concert special. Even as an opening act, Taylor worked to win over audiences, often spending time after shows meeting fans and signing autographs, a practice she would continue throughout her career. Her success earned her recognition from the music industry. At the 2008 Grammy Awards, she received her first nomination for Best New Artist, though she didn't win. More significantly, she won numerous country music awards, including the Horizon Award from the Country Music Association in 2007, which recognized her as country music's Breakthrough Artist of the Year. Chapter 4, Fearless Era and Global Stardom, 2008 to 2010. Taylor's second studio album, Fearless, released on November 11, 2008, catapulted her from country music star to global pop culture phenomenon. The album was a masterpiece of crossover appeal, maintaining her country roots while incorporating pop sensibilities that attracted a massive mainstream audience. It debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200, selling 592,000 copies in its first week, the largest opening for any country album in a decade. Fearless was both a commercial and artistic triumph. The album's lead single, Love Story, became Taylor's breakthrough crossover hit, reaching number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100 and topping charts internationally. The song's Romeo and Juliet-inspired narrative demonstrated her maturing songwriting skills and her ability to reimagine classic stories through a contemporary lens. The fairy tale quality of Love Story appealed to listeners of all ages and established Taylor as a storyteller capable of creating modern classics. The second single, White Horse, won 2 Grammy Awards, while You Belong With Me became one of her most iconic songs. The latter's music video, featuring Taylor playing both the nerdy girl next door and the popular cheerleader, became a cultural touchstone and has been viewed hundreds of millions of times. The song's theme of unrequited love and feeling overlooked resonated powerfully with her core audience of teenage and young adult listeners. Fearless spent 11 non-consecutive weeks at number 1 on the Billboard 200 and became the best-selling album of 2009 in the United States, moving over 3.2 million copies that year. The album's success transcended country music, establishing Taylor as a pop culture force. She appeared on magazine covers, television shows, and became a fixture in mainstream media coverage. The Fearless Tour, which ran from April 2009 to June 2010, was a massive undertaking featuring elaborate stage productions, costume changes, and Taylor's signature surprise acoustic performances, where she would cover other artists' songs. The tour grossed over $66 million and played to over 1.1 million fans across 5 continents, establishing Taylor as a global touring powerhouse. The awards and accolades from this era were unprecedented. At the 52nd Grammy Awards in 2010, Fearless won Album of the Year, making Taylor the youngest artist ever to win the award at just 20 years old. She also won Best Country Album, Best Country Song for White Horse, and Best Female Country Vocal Performance. These victories validated her as not just a commercial success, but as a critically acclaimed artist. However, this era also included one of the most controversial moments in Taylor's career. At the 2009 MTV Video Music Awards, while Taylor was accepting the award for Best Female Video for You Belong With Me, rapper Kanye West interrupted her speech, declaring that Beyoncé should have won. The incident became a defining pop culture moment and garnered Taylor enormous public sympathy. While undoubtedly difficult at the time, the incident raised her profile even further and positioned her as gracious and professional in the face of adversity. Chapter 5, Speak Now and Growing Maturity, 2010 to 2012. Determined to prove herself as a songwriter and respond to critics who suggested she didn't write her own material, Taylor wrote her third studio album, Speak Now, entirely by herself, an almost unprecedented feat for a major label pop or country album. Released on October 25, 2010, the album was a bold statement of artistic independence and creative control. Speak Now debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200 with first-week sales of over 1 million copies, making it the 16th album in history to sell 1 million copies in a single week. The achievement was particularly notable in an era when album sales were declining due to digital piracy and streaming. The album demonstrated that Taylor had become one of the few artists who could still drive massive album sales. The album's 14 tracks showcased Taylor's growth as a songwriter and her willingness to address more complex emotions and situations. Mine explored the fear of commitment stemming from witnessing failed relationships. Back to December was a rare apology song, with Taylor expressing regret over how a relationship ended, widely speculated to be about actor Taylor Lautner. Mean, which won 2 Grammy Awards, was a response to music critics who had been harsh in their reviews, with Taylor defending herself through witty, cutting lyrics. Speak Now also included Dear John, a deeply personal and scathing account of a relationship with an older man, widely believed to be about musician John Mayer. The song demonstrated Taylor's willingness to be vulnerable and to call out behavior she found manipulative, even when it might generate controversy. Other highlights included Enchanted, Sparks Fly, and Long Live, the latter becoming an anthem celebrating her relationship with fans and her band. The Speak Now World Tour ran from February 2011 to March 2012, visiting Asia, Europe, and North America. The tour grossed over $123 million and was attended by over 1.6 million fans. The elaborate production featured theatrical elements, with Taylor performing on multiple stages, including a middle stage that extended into the audience. She wore numerous costume changes and incorporated storytelling elements between songs, treating each concert as a complete theatrical experience. During this period, Taylor's celebrity status reached new heights. Her personal life, particularly her romantic relationships, became constant tabloid fodder. She dated actor Jake Gyllenhaal, and their relationship and subsequent breakup would inspire numerous songs on her next album. The media's intense focus on her dating life became both a blessing and a curse. It kept her in headlines, but also led to criticism that she wrote too many songs about ex-boyfriends. Taylor handled this scrutiny with increasing savvy, occasionally addressing it with humor, but generally maintaining her dignity and privacy where possible. She recognized that her personal life was intertwined with her art and her public persona, but she worked to control the narrative as much as possible. This balancing act between openness and privacy would define much of her career going forward. Chapter 6, Red and the Pop Transition, 2012 to 2014. Red, released on October 22, 2012, marked Taylor's most explicit move toward pop music, while still maintaining connections to her country roots. The album was her most sonically diverse to date, incorporating rock, dubstep, and electronic influences alongside country and pop. It represented a transitional moment in her career, as she began to outgrow the country music classification, while not yet fully embracing pop. The album's emotional landscape was also more complex and mature. Red explored the full spectrum of an intense relationship and its aftermath, with songs ranging from the euphoric Begin Again to the devastating All Too Well. The latter, widely considered one of Taylor's finest songwriting achievements, was a 5.5-minute epic detailing the rise and fall of a relationship with vivid, heartbreaking imagery. Fans and critics alike praised All Too Well as a masterclass in narrative songwriting. Red debuted at number 1 with first-week sales of 1.21 million copies, the highest opening week sales in a decade, and Taylor's highest at that point. The title track showcased her experimentation with different musical styles, while I Knew You Were Trouble incorporated dubstep influences and became a massive international hit. We Are Never Getting Back Together, the album's lead single, became her first number 1 song on the Billboard Hot 100. Other notable tracks included 22, a celebration of young adulthood that became an anthem for her fans. Everything Has Changed, a collaboration with Ed Sheeran that showcased her willingness to work with artists from different genres, and The Last Time, a duet with Gary Lightbody of Snow Patrol. The album's diversity demonstrated Taylor's refusal to be confined to a single genre or sound. The Red Tour ran from March 2013 to June 2014, visiting North America, Oceania, Asia, and Europe. The tour grossed over $150 million, making it one of the highest-grossing tours of all time at that point. The production was Taylor's most ambitious yet, featuring multiple stages, aerial performers, and elaborate video screens. She continued her tradition of bringing out surprise guest performers, with appearances from everyone from Cher to Mick Jagger. This era also saw Taylor expanding her business ventures and public profile beyond music. She became a spokesperson for various brands, including Diet Coke and Keds. She also began developing her understanding of the music business and her value within it, setting the stage for later business decisions that would reshape the industry. The Red era ended with Taylor winning numerous awards, but being notably shut out of major categories at the 2014 Grammy Awards. Despite the album's critical and commercial success, the snub was widely discussed and may have influenced her decision to fully embrace pop music for her next album, recognizing that straddling genres was limiting her recognition by the Recording Academy. Chapter 7, 1989 and Full Pop Transformation, 2014 to 2016. With 1989, released on October 27, 2014, Taylor made her complete transition to pop music official. Named after her birth year, the album was a bold reinvention that saw her leaving behind country music entirely. She worked with pop producers Max Martin and Shellback to create a synth-pop sound inspired by 1980s music. The risk was enormous. She was abandoning the genre that made her famous and the audience that had supported her from the beginning. The gamble paid off spectacularly. 1,989 Inches debuted at number 1 with first-week sales of 1.287 million copies, becoming the best-selling album of 2014 despite being released in October. It would go on to sell over 10 million copies worldwide and spent 11 weeks at number 1 on the Billboard 200. The album proved that Taylor could successfully transition genres and that her fan base would follow her artistic evolution. Shake It Off, the album's lead single, was an infectious pop anthem about ignoring critics and haters. The song debuted at number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and became one of Taylor's most commercially successful singles. Its message of resilience and self-confidence resonated broadly, and the song's music video, featuring Taylor dancing in various styles, some intentionally awkward, showcased her self-deprecating humor and willingness to look silly. Blank Space followed as the second single and became a cultural phenomenon. The song satirized media portrayals of Taylor as a serial dater with crazy ex-boyfriends, with Taylor leaning into the stereotype to mock it. The music video, featuring Taylor as an unhinged wealthy woman who destroys her mansion after a breakup, demonstrated her sophisticated understanding of her public image and her willingness to control the narrative through self-parody. The song reached number 1, and its music video became one of the most viewed videos of all time. Other singles from OS 1,989 Inches included Style, Bad Blood, featuring a remix with Kendrick Lamar and a star-studded music video, Wildest Dreams, and Out of the Woods. Each song showcased different aspects of Taylor's artistic growth and her mastery of pop songcraft. The album also included New Romantics, Clean, and I Know Places, deeper cuts that fans celebrated for their lyrical sophistication and emotional depth. The 1989 World Tour, running from May to December 2015, was the highest-grossing tour of 2015, earning over $250 million. The tour was a spectacle of pop production, with elaborate sets, costume changes, backup dancers, and special effects. Taylor brought out an unprecedented number of special guests at each show, from musicians like Mick Jagger and Justin Timberlake, to supermodels like Gigi Hadid and Karlie Kloss, to actors and athletes. These surprise appearances became a defining feature of the tour and generated massive social media coverage. During this era, Taylor's squad, her group of famous friends, became a subject of media fascination and some criticism. Photos of Taylor with models, actresses, and musicians became ubiquitous on social media, projecting an image of glamorous friendship, but also leading to criticism that she was exclusionary or calculating in her friendships. Taylor largely dismissed these criticisms, focusing on celebrating female friendship and support. At the 58th Grammy Awards in 2016, 1,989 Inches won Album of the Year, making Taylor the first woman to win the award twice. She also won Best Pop Vocal Album and Best Music Video for Bad Blood. In her acceptance speech for Album of the Year, Taylor addressed criticism and encouraged young women not to let anyone diminish their accomplishments, a speech that would later become controversial when interpreted as a response to Kanye West. Chapter 8, Reputation and the Backlash, 2016 to 2018. Following the massive success of 1989, Taylor faced significant public backlash. The controversy centered on her feud with Kanye West and Kim Kardashian over West's song Famous, which included controversial lyrics about Taylor. When a secretly recorded phone conversation was released, later revealed to be edited, many people turned against Taylor, accusing her of playing the victim and being manipulative. The #TaylorSwift party trended worldwide. Taylor largely disappeared from public life in 2016 and early 2017, avoiding social media and public appearances. This retreat was strategic as she worked on her next album and allowed the controversy to die down. When she returned, it was with Look What You Made Me Do in August 2017, a dark, aggressive single that addressed the backlash head-on. The song's music video featured Taylor symbolically killing her previous personas and declaring that the old Taylor was dead. Reputation, released on November 10, 2017, was Taylor's darkest and most sonically aggressive album. The album explored themes of public perception, media manipulation, genuine versus fake friendships, and finding love despite living in a spotlight. It debuted with 1.216 million copies sold in its first week, the biggest sales week for any album in over a year, proving that despite the controversies, Taylor's fan base remained intensely loyal. The album included vengeful tracks like I Did Something Bad and This Is Why We Can't Have Nice Things, alongside softer, more vulnerable songs like Delicate, Gorgeous, and Call It What You Want. The sonic palette incorporated hip-hop influences, trap beats, and electronic production courtesy of collaborators like Max Martin, Shellback, and Jack Antonoff. The album showed Taylor willing to experiment and take risks sonically and thematically. Delicate became a fan favorite and commercial success, showing Taylor's vulnerable side and her fear of new love after public scrutiny. Ready for It showcased her willingness to embrace harder production styles. Endgame, featuring Ed Sheeran and Future, demonstrated her continued ability to collaborate across genres. Gorgeous and King of My Heart explored the early stages of her relationship with British actor Joe Alwyn, whom she had been dating since 2016 in remarkable secrecy. The Reputation Stadium Tour ran from May to November 2018 and became the highest-grossing North American tour ever at the time, earning over $345 million. Playing exclusively in stadiums, the tour featured massive production, including a 63-foot Cobra, a symbol Taylor had reclaimed from critics who called her a snake, flying platforms, and elaborate visual effects. The tour was documented in a Netflix special, Taylor Swift Reputation Stadium Tour, released in December 2018. Despite its commercial success, Reputation received mixed critical reviews compared to Taylor's previous work, with some critics finding it too focused on settling scores. At the 61st Grammy Awards, the album received only one nomination, for Best Pop Vocal Album, which it didn't win. This was seen as a snub by many fans, and possibly reflected the Recording Academy's discomfort with the album's darker themes and public feuds. However, Reputation was crucial in Taylor's evolution. It showed her willingness to address criticism directly, to experiment with new sounds, and to continue evolving as an artist even when facing intense public scrutiny. It also demonstrated her commercial resilience. Regardless of critical reception or public controversies, her fan base would support her work. Chapter 9. Lover and Political Awakening, 2018 to 2020. Following the darkness of Reputation, Taylor returned with Lover, released on August 23, 2019, an album celebrating love in all its forms: romantic, friendship, self-love, and her love for her fans and music. The album was brighter, more optimistic, and more politically outspoken than anything she had previously released. It marked Taylor reclaiming her narrative and her joy in making music. Lover was Taylor's first album released through Republic Records after her contract with Big Machine Records ended. This change would prove significant in the battles to come over her master recordings. The album debuted at number 1, with 867,000 equivalent album units, the largest week for any album in 2019. While lower than some of her previous first-week sales, it demonstrated strong commercial performance in an era of declining album sales. The lead single, Me, featuring Brendan Urie of Panic at the Door, was an exuberant celebration of individuality. You Need to Calm Down. The second single was Taylor's most explicitly political song to date, supporting LGBTQ+ rights and calling out homophobia. The music video featured numerous LGBTQ+ celebrities and allies, and Taylor donated proceeds to LGBTQ+ organizations. The song marked Taylor's shift toward more overt political engagement. The title track, Lover, was a romantic, waltzing tribute to enduring love, written about Joe Alwyn. Other highlights included The Man, which directly addressed sexism and double standards in the music industry, The Archer, a vulnerable exploration of self-sabotage and anxiety, Cruel Summer, which became a massive hit despite not being released as an official single initially, and Miss Americana, The Heartbreak Prince, an allegory about American politics and disillusionment. This era marked Taylor's political awakening and activism. Previously, she had avoided political statements, but she began speaking out on issues including LGBTQ+ rights, women's rights, and the 2018 midterm elections. In her Netflix documentary, Miss Americana, released in January 2020, Taylor explained her decision to become more politically vocal, including her endorsement of Democratic candidates in Tennessee, despite warnings from her team about potential backlash from her fan base. Taylor's political evolution was significant given her previous silence and the assumptions many had made about her political beliefs. She used her platform to advocate for the Equality Act, registered voters through social media, and spoke against discrimination. While this alienated some conservative fans, it endeared her to others and showed her willingness to risk commercial success for her beliefs. During this period, Taylor also faced one of the biggest controversies of her career involving her music catalog. In June 2019, Scooter Braun's Ithaca Holdings acquired Big Machine label group, including the master recordings of Taylor's first 6 albums. Taylor publicly expressed her devastation, characterizing the sale as her worst-case scenario and accusing Braun of bullying her over the years. The dispute became a major music industry story and raised questions about artists' rights and ownership. Taylor announced her intention to re-record her first 6 albums to own the new master recordings, a bold and unprecedented move that would take years to complete. The announcement demonstrated her business acumen and her commitment to controlling her own work, even if it meant recreating years of music from scratch. Chapter 10. Folklore, Evermore, and Pandemic Creativity, 2020 to 2021. On July 23, 2020, with just 16 hours' notice, Taylor surprise released Folklore, an indie folk album created during COVID-19 quarantine. Working remotely with producers Aaron Dessner of The National and Jack Antonoff, Taylor created an album dramatically different from anything in her catalog. Written and recorded in isolation, Folklore was introspective, fictional storytelling rather than autobiographical, and sonically subdued compared to her previous pop productions. Folklore was a critical and commercial triumph. It debuted at number 1 with 846,000 equivalent album units, the biggest first week for any album in 2020. More significantly, it received nearly universal critical acclaim, with many critics calling it her finest work. The album won Album of the Year at the 63rd Grammy Awards, making Taylor the first woman to win the award 3 times. It also won Best Pop Vocal Album. The album's lead single, Cardigan, became her 6th number 1 hit on the Billboard Hot 100. Other highlights included The One, Exile, featuring Bon Iver, My Tears Ricochet, reportedly about the Big Machine situation, August, This Is Me Trying, and Betty. The latter 3 songs formed a teenage love triangle narrative told from 3 different perspectives, showcasing Taylor's storytelling sophistication. Just 5 months later, on December 11, 2020, Taylor surprise released Evermore, a companion album to Folklore, described as its sister record. Created during the same sessions with Dessner and Antonoff, Evermore continued the indie folk sound while exploring darker, more mature themes. The album debuted at number 1. Making Taylor the first artist to debut 2 new albums at number 1 in the same calendar year since 2010. Evermore featured collaborations with the band Haim on Nobody, No Crime, a murder ballad, and Bon Iver on Evermore. Other standout tracks included Willow, Champagne Problems, Gold Rush, 'Tis the Damn Season, and Tolerate It. The album demonstrated Taylor's comfort with fictional storytelling and her ability to create complex characters and narratives beyond her own experience. Both albums were supported by Folklore, the Long Pond studio sessions, a concert film released on Disney Plus in November 2020, featuring Taylor performing the entire Folklore album with Dessner and Antonoff in a cabin setting. The intimate performance showcased the song's beauty and Taylor's storytelling, offering fans a unique concert experience during a time when live performances were impossible. The pandemic period solidified Taylor's status as not just a commercial powerhouse, but a critically respected artist. The stripped-back production and fictional storytelling of Folklore and Evermore silenced critics who had dismissed her as merely a pop star. These albums proved she could succeed in any genre and that her songwriting could stand on its own without elaborate production. During this period, Taylor also began re-recording her first 6 albums. Fearless, Taylor's version, was released on April 9, 2021, featuring re-recorded versions of all the original album songs, plus additional tracks from the vault, songs written during that era, but not included on the original release. The album debuted at number 1, and the strategy of releasing vault tracks ensured fans would stream the new versions rather than the originals. Red, Taylor's version, followed on November 12, 2021, with a 10-minute version of All Too Well that became a cultural phenomenon. The extended version provided additional details to the already beloved song, and an accompanying short film directed by Taylor and starring Sadie Sink and Dylan O'Brien received critical acclaim. The song debuted at number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100, making it the longest song ever to top the chart on Chapter 11, Midnights and Continued Dominance, 2022 to 2023. On August 28, 2022, at the MTV Video Music Awards, Taylor announced her 10th studio album, Midnights, to be released on October 21, 2022. Described as the stories of 13 sleepless nights scattered throughout my life, the album returned to pop production while maintaining the introspective, mature songwriting of the Folklore and Evermore era. Midnights was a commercial juggernaut. It broke numerous records, including the most streamed album in a single day on Spotify with over 185 million streams. It debuted at number 1 with 1.578 million equivalent album units, the largest week for any album since 2017. The album made history when all 10 of its tracks occupied the top 10 of the Billboard Hot 100 simultaneously, the first time any artist had achieved this feat. The lead single, Anti-Hero, became one of Taylor's biggest hits, topping the Billboard Hot 100 for 8 weeks. The song's self-deprecating lyrics about insecurity and self-loathing resonated with listeners and showcased Taylor's willingness to be vulnerable about her mental health. Other successful singles included Lavender Haze, Karma, Bejeweled, and Mastermind. The album explored themes of insecurity, revenge, self-examination, and late-night anxiety. Tracks like Maroon, Midnight Rain, Question, and Vigilante Shit demonstrated Taylor's continued evolution as a songwriter. Snow on the Beach featured Lana Del Rey, while the expanded Midnight's 3 a.m. edition added 7 more tracks, showcasing Taylor's prolific writing during the album sessions. In November 2022, Taylor announced the Eras Tour, a retrospective concert series celebrating all of her musical eras. The tour began in March 2023 and quickly became a cultural and economic phenomenon. The demand for tickets crashed Ticketmaster's website, leading to a congressional hearing about the company's practices and market dominance. The tour became the highest-grossing tour of all time, surpassing $1 billion in revenue. The Eras Tour was a 3-hour-plus spectacle featuring songs from all of Taylor's albums, elaborate costumes, and set changes, and production values unlike anything previously seen in concert tours. The tour's economic impact on each city it visited was substantial, with Taylor Nation coordinating with local tourism boards. The phenomenon was dubbed Taylornomics by economists studying the tour's unprecedented economic effects. In July 2023, Taylor released Speak Now, Taylor's version, her third re-recorded album. In October 2023, she released 1989, Taylor's version, which included vault tracks like Is It Over Now and Cell *T. Both albums debuted at number 1, demonstrating that her re-recording strategy continued to be commercially successful. The Eras Tour concert film was released in theaters in October 2023 and became the highest-grossing concert film of all time, earning over $250 million globally. The film allowed fans who couldn't attend the tour to experience it and created a theatrical concert experience that was unprecedented in its scale and success. Chapter 12, The Tortured Poets Department and Current Status, 2024, Present. At the 2024 Grammy Awards, while accepting her 13th Grammy and record-breaking 4th Album of the Year award for Midnights, Taylor announced her 11th studio album, The Tortured Poets Department. The album was released on April 19, 2024, as a surprise double album totaling 31 tracks when including the extended The Anthology Edition. The Tortured Poets Department debuted with 2.61 million equivalent album units, the largest week for any album since 2015. It broke numerous streaming records and dominated the Billboard charts, with multiple tracks reaching the top 10. The album explored themes of heartbreak, grief, artistic struggle, and emotional turmoil, with some of Taylor's most raw and unfiltered lyrics to date. The album featured collaborations with Post Malone on Fortnite, the lead single, and Florence the Machine on Florida. Other notable tracks included So Long London, Who's Afraid of Little Old Me, I Can Do It With a Broken Heart, The Smallest Man Who Ever Lived, and Clara Bow. The album's literary references and complex metaphors showcase Taylor's continued growth as a lyricist. While some critics found the album's length excessive and its lyrics occasionally overwritten, others praised its ambition and emotional rawness. The album demonstrated Taylor's willingness to be vulnerable about difficult emotions and complex relationships, even as her celebrity status made every lyric subject to intense scrutiny and speculation. The Eras Tour continued throughout 2024, expanding internationally and breaking records in every country it visited. Taylor became the first artist to gross over $2 billion from a single tour. The tour's cultural impact extended beyond music, influencing fashion, social media trends, and even local economies. Cities competed to host the tour, recognizing the substantial economic benefits Taylor's concerts brought. In December 2024, Taylor was named Time Magazine's Person of the Year for 2023, recognition of her cultural and economic impact. The lengthy profile explored her journey from country star to global icon and examined her influence on music, business, and popular culture. Chapter 13, Business Acumen and Net Worth. Taylor Swift's business acumen has been as remarkable as her musical talent. Her estimated net worth as of early 2025 is approximately $1.3 billion, making her one of the wealthiest musicians in the world, and one of the few billionaires to achieve that status primarily through music rather than business ventures or investments outside their craft. Her wealth comes from multiple sources. Album sales and streaming have generated hundreds of millions of dollars. The Eras Tour alone has generated over $2 billion in gross revenue, with Taylor's take estimated at over $500 million. Her re-recording project has been financially brilliant, allowing her to profit from her early catalog while diminishing the value of the original masters she doesn't own. Taylor's real estate portfolio is substantial, including properties in New York City, Los Angeles, Nashville, and Rhode Island, collectively worth over $150 million. She has made shrewd investments and maintained careful control over her finances throughout her career. Her business decisions have often been groundbreaking. In 2014, she pulled her entire catalog from Spotify, protesting the service's compensation to artists. She returned in 2017, but had made her point about artist compensation. Her public disputes over streaming royalties and artist rights have influenced industry practices and raised awareness about how streaming services compensate musicians. The decision to re-record her first 6 albums was unprecedented and demonstrated a new pathway for artists to reclaim control of their work. While legally complex and requiring substantial investment, the strategy has proven commercially successful and provided a template for other artists facing similar situations. Taylor has also been savvy about brand partnerships and endorsements, working with companies like Apple Music, Capital One, Atant, and others in deals worth millions. She has launched fragrances and merchandise lines that have generated substantial revenue. Her ability to monetize her brand while maintaining artistic integrity has been remarkable. Chapter 14: Cultural Impact and Legacy. Taylor Swift's cultural impact extends far beyond music sales and awards. She has influenced how artists approach album releases, marketing, fan engagement, and business strategy in the streaming era. Her surprise album drops, Easter eggs in music videos and social media posts, and direct engagement with fans have created a new playbook for artist-fan relationships. Her songwriting has influenced a generation of musicians. Her emphasis on specific details, narrative storytelling, and autobiographical honesty has become a dominant mode in pop music. Countless artists cite her as an influence, and her willingness to experiment across genres has shown the commercial viability of artistic evolution. Taylor's advocacy for artists' rights has had tangible impacts on the music industry. Her letter to Apple Music in 2015 resulted in the company changing its policy and paying artists during customer trial periods. Her disputes over master ownership have raised awareness about recording contracts and artist exploitation, particularly for young artists who may not understand what they're signing. Her impact on feminism and women in music has been complex. She has advocated for women supporting each other and called out sexism and double standards in the industry. However, she has also faced criticism for white feminism and for not using her platform more effectively to address systemic inequalities. Her political evolution has shown growth in this area, though critics argue she could do more. Taylor's fan base, known as Swifties, is one of the most dedicated and organized in music. They decode her Easter eggs, stream her music strategically to boost chart performance, defend her against critics, and create a community around her music. This level of fan engagement has become a model for other artists, though few have replicated her success in fostering such loyalty. Conclusion: an ongoing story. At 35 years old, as of 2025, Taylor Swift's career continues to evolve and break new ground. From a teenage country singer to a global pop icon and billionaire businesswoman, her journey has been extraordinary. She has won 14 Grammy Awards, including 4 Album of the Year awards. She has sold over 200 million records worldwide, making her one of the best-selling music artists of all time. Her success stems from multiple factors: exceptional songwriting talent, business savvy, work ethic, strategic thinking, and an ability to connect with audiences across demographics. She has navigated the transition from physical album sales to streaming, from country to pop, from teenage artist to adult musician, all while maintaining commercial success and growing her audience. Taylor's legacy will likely include not just her music, but her impact on how artists approach their careers and business in the modern music industry. Her re-recording project may become a landmark moment in artists' rights. Her touring success has shown the continued viability of live performance in generating revenue. Her fan engagement strategies have created a template for direct artist-to-fan relationships. Her story is still being written, with re-recordings still to complete, new music potentially on the horizon, and the Eras Tour continuing its record-breaking run. Taylor Swift remains at the peak of her commercial and creative powers. Whether she maintains this level of success, continues to evolve artistically, or takes new risks remains to be seen. What is certain is that Taylor Allison Swift has already secured her place as one of the most significant musicians and cultural figures of the 21st century. From a Christmas tree farm in Pennsylvania to global superstardom, her journey embodies talent, determination, evolution, and the power of connecting with audiences through honest, detailed storytelling. Her impact on music, business, and popular culture will be studied and celebrated for generations to come. The girl who once walked down Music Row handing out demo tapes has become an icon, a billionaire, and a voice for millions of fans worldwide. Her story of success, reinvention, and resilience continues to inspire and influence, making her not just a musician, but a defining cultural force of her generation.